power courses through me.
Persona 5 Royal is one of the most bizarre, unique, and surprising games out there, and it's one of my absolute favourites. Whether it's the battles, the enemy designs, the locations, or just the everyday school life, Persona 5 gets it all spot on. So today, let's have a look at this absolute masterpiece. But before we begin, you may have noticed a little PC Game Pass tag in the title, and that's because I was provided with 3 months of free access to PC Game Pass for making a video. And, well, I've used it as an excuse to play one of my favourite games again. And a bit of Football Manager too. Oh, and by the way, while we're not going to go too hard on the spoilers here, so that hopefully if you've never played the game before you can watch this video and still be surprised by the twists and turns if you play Persona 5, there are still going to be some spoilers in this one. So if you want to play Persona 5 for yourself first, I highly recommend you do that. So, disclosure out the way, let's do this. So, what is Persona 5? Well, through the use of the metaverse... No, not that one. Keep that crap away from me, Mark. This one. A group of high schoolers are able to enter the distorted cognitions of evildoers, steal the treasure that lies within their palace, and change their hearts. Of course, there are enemies along the way, and you'll have to fight them using your persona, which is your spirit of rebellion. Every one of our group gets one, except for our main character Joker, who is special and can collect multiple of them. Are you keeping up here? If you answered yes, wow, well done. So, starting out Persona 5, we see our main character dashing and jumping across gantries high above a casino floor, seemingly escaping from some great heist. Quickly, we're surrounded by enemies, and given our first glimpse of this maybe being a bit of an unusual game, as our hero leaps on top of the enemy and tears away his mask, revealing his true form underneath. And already in this opening couple of minutes of the game, we get to see two of the best aspects of Persona 5. The glittering and opulent casino, which represents the palaces we're going to see throughout the game, and the wonderfully unique enemy design. But, after a quick fight and a bit more of an escape, we're captured, and informed that one of our teammates has betrayed us. We're taken to an interrogation room and beaten and drugged up, before our meeting with prosecutor Sai Nijima. And then we learn that the majority of the game is going to be a flashback to all the moments that led up to this point. Now, usually I would hate this approach. What was the old Rick and Morty quote? Stories should start where they begin. Yeah, I tend to agree, but in this case, it just works. We've seen what the game has to offer. We've got a taste of what we're getting ourselves into before we're thrown back into the everyday life of a student. Alright, weird twist. Yes, Persona 5 is broken up into two main parts. The awesome palaces that we have to sneak through to steal the treasure and change the hearts of criminals, and the everyday school life aspect, where we get to explore Tokyo, study and improve our skills, and form friendships with the people around us. And these friendships are important. You may be thinking, well, one part of the game sounds cool, but I have a normal life. Why do I want to play a game where I go to school? Well, one, because strengthening relationships gives you extra skills in battle, which can be extremely useful, and two, because the characters here are bloody awesome. One of the themes of Persona 5 is not to judge a book by its cover, and we see that in basically every character we meet. Right at the start of the game, we meet Ryuji, who seems to be a brash troublemaker. Hell, the game even calls him Vulgar Boy before we learn his name, which is a little bit harsh. But dig just a little deeper beneath the surface, and you'll see that he's been hurt by the corrupt adults around him, and all he wants to do is fight back against them and right the wrongs that have happened to him. Then there's Sojiro, who is our guardian for the year, and he seems like a cold-hearted womanizer when we first meet him. But he's actually caring for his adopted daughter when we're led to believe he's out on dates. And you can go through basically every character in the game like this. They all have realistic personalities behind their shallow facade, and their stories don't just seem to start when we show up. They have their own pasts and relationships, which just adds so much depth to everything going on. and gives them their own reasons to want to fight back. And the two parts of the game, the crazy over-the-top fights and the normal life, just complement each other perfectly. The palaces are insane, mind-bending action, but then you can take a break and just go and play darts with your friends, or work on your charm by taking a bath in the public bathhouse. Not sure I see the link, but sure. And even something as simple as the few days where you find a seat on the packed train to school so you can read a book and level up some of your skills ends up feeling like a big win. And as you progress through the game, more of the city will open up to you as different friends invite you out, meaning there's always something new to do and explore in between the action. So, what about the palaces? Well, in the royal version of the game we have 9 of them, each with their own unique setting, puzzles, enemies, and of course, boss battles. These palaces are the peak of design, ranging from a medieval castle with knights patrolling its halls, to an ancient Egyptian pyramid with giant coffins for enemies and booby traps all over the place, to a bloody spaceship factory thing that sees you zipping between airlocks. And while the basic structure of the palaces is pretty much always the same, sneak in, fight enemies, steal treasure, each of them feels different and fresh, and you can just lose yourself in them for hours upon hours. Especially as the royal version of the game adds in will seeds which can be discovered, and offer a nice little reward for exploration, and the grappling hook which means you'll always want to keep an eye out for a spot to fly on up to. Now the fights here are turn-based, which may put some people off, but it's a fantastic system. As we play through the game, our group, the Phantom Thieves, gains new members who usually have a new attack type after they awaken to their personas, allowing them to fight in the metaverse. Only 4 of the Phantom Thieves can fight at any one time, so you'll have to choose your party carefully. And you're pretty much always going to want to bring a good healer with you to keep you in the fight. Now, enemies have weaknesses to certain types of attacks, and if you hit them with one of these attacks, it knocks them down, allowing the thieves to perform a free attack with a baton pass for extra damage. Knock all the enemies down though and you can negotiate with them, asking for money, items, or to join your team. Or if you don't fancy any of that, why not just wipe them out with an incredibly stylish all-out attack? This thing looks awesome. And now specific duos of characters even have showtime attacks which look even better. Oh, and the music? Mwah! Chef's kiss. Just full on. Mwah! It's been playing in the background, so you've kind of heard it, but just have a listen. My god, that is perfection. Now, for the most part, the palace rulers, the main enemies of the game that we have to take down, are unambiguously bad guys. And I have to admit that after the first couple of palaces, I was a little concerned. It's easy to just say, hey, we're the good guys and they're the bad guys, when we're just fighting against an abusive teacher or a plagiarizing artist who literally let someone die to steal their art. And I just wanted a bit more of a moral dilemma. And fortunately, that's exactly what the royal version of the game offers, with its new palace under the control of Dr. Tacto Maraki. What's that? I almost definitely butchered his name. Well, I'm dumb and I'm British, what the hell do you want from me? Anyway, Maraki was the counselor at our school for a while, and as the story progressed, we got to know him well. He's a good guy, and using the metaverse, he's been able to change people's cognitions to take away their pain and create an ideal world. The only problem is that it isn't real. He's actively making people happy, and he just wants to help people. So when the choice is given to us to accept or deny his reality, it's genuinely difficult to say we can't live like this. We have to choose to bring back our friends' pain and trauma if we want to live in the real world. And it's why he's such an interesting opponent. He's not really the bad guy, and in a way, we are. It's a bit of a shame that other palaces didn't really go down this path too much, but I suppose the old good versus evil aspect of the majority of them appeals to a lot of people. Anyway, Maraki is achieving all of this by using mementos, which acts as the general public's palace. This is a really cool randomly generated area that takes the form of a dark and twisted subway system, and you'll want to visit mementos a lot during your playthrough to level up and take on side missions. And mementos ends up being a good location to get stronger between palaces, either by leveling or by collecting new personas. Any personas you do collect can be taken to Igor in the Velvet Room, where you can fuse them together by brutal executions to create new and stronger personas, adding even more depth into the system. Now, I hope you've got the idea so far that I adore Persona 5. And hey, I actually had a 1.5 hour video scripted to fully explore this game, but decided against it last minute. Maybe I'll revisit it at some stage, so if you'd like to see that, let me know down in the comments. But despite all of that, Persona 5 is not a perfect game. I don't think there's any perfect game that exists. For me, Persona 5's biggest problem is the lack of consequences. And I know I gave a small spoiler warning at the beginning, but big, massive spoiler warning now. This is the point to turn off the video if you do not want to know what happens. Alright, still here? So, there are several occasions in the game where a character should die, but doesn't. There's one where Ryuji is in the middle of an explosion as we're escaping a palace, and comes out completely unscathed. Dr. Mariki should probably die at the end of his palace when it all comes crumbling down, and he only gets saved by Joker clinging onto him. Morgana had a full damn scene where the game was like, he leaves having accomplished his goal, and then he's back the next day. But by far the biggest one of these is Goro Akechi. Now, he gets shot in Shido's palace, and we assume he's dead, but he shows up a couple of days later. But no, that's okay because it's not the real Akechi. It's a cognition created by Dr. Mariki. The real one is dead. Okay, fair enough, alright, that makes sense. Kind of. And it looks like there are consequences when, after defeating Dr. Mariki, things go back to the way they should be, and he is gone for real this time. The credits roll. But wait, there's a cutscene after the credits, and walking through the damn background. Oh, for God's sake, it's Akechi. Persona 5 cannot let a character die for some reason. At least not a main character, as bad guys, oh, they're not immune from the consequences. Now, don't get me wrong here. I'm glad these characters don't die because I like them. Man, when I thought our boy Ryuji had gone, I was really starting to well up. But just because I'm happy that they don't die, doesn't mean they shouldn't have. In my opinion, it would have offered the story more weight and believability. Believability obviously being an odd concept in a game like this, I know, but I just feel that the consequences should have existed. Regardless of any minor complaints I have, Persona 5 is easily in the running for my favourite game of all time. And I can almost guarantee that at some stage in the future, there's going to be a freaking massive video on this channel all about it, exploring every enemy and every palace, and talking about the romances, the style, and the personalities of all the thieves, because what I've talked about in this video is like 1% of what happens, if that. But for now, just know that Persona 5 is an amazing game, and the Royal version only makes it that much better.